I spent years and years and years and years learning how to intuitively read things down to a science and
Mm,
be able to read the energy that comes off of people, reading their thoughts, reading their higher self, reading their soul contract. And then I can bring that all together, see where I call them holes, see where their holes are in their electromagnetic field so we can fill them in, shift our emotions so we can create differently. And so I combine a lot of that with the neuroscience to shift the brain reprogramming to change the energy to then change the reality.
Welcome to the Mindful Method podcast, where we don't just fill your ears, we fill your mind with the tools to enhance your emotional and physical reality. I'm your host, Jordana Sade, here to guide you on this journey of the body-brain connection and help you take your power back to create the life you've always wanted. So grab a seat, because class is in session and our method is on the syllabus. Here at the Mindful Clinic, we're not just changing your mind, we're changing your life. One mindful moment at a time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindful Method podcast. Today I have a very exciting and special guest. I have Allie here, and Allie is a master of understanding your intuition and using neuroscience and universal laws to unfuck your life and manifest what you desire. She could not be more aligned for this podcast, and I'm just so excited to dive into it. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you, Queen. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay. So, as you know, we just shared briefly kind of my story, your story. This is a very like specific niche, you know? Like you don't just go to school and like get here. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story and what brought you to where you are and how you help others.
Yes, so weirdly specific to the point where like when people ask me what I do, I'm just like, here's my Instagram. I don't know, you'll figure it out. I can't even like explain it. I'm like, here,
Totally.
just go
Yeah.
figure it out. So, yeah, long story short, when I was 5, I started realizing these medium tendencies. So, for example, I woke up one morning and I was like, "Mom, grandma has cancer." My mom was like, "No, she doesn't. What are you talking about?" 2 weeks later, my grandma found out she had cancer. And, it was just, like, weird stuff like that, and then another, like, big one I can remember is when I was 12, at my grandfather's funeral, my dad's dad, I went up to my dad, I was like, "Oh, no, no." He's Italian, so we called him No No, it's grandpa in Italian. We go, "No, no told me this story about you," like, and I brought up this story about my dad when he was little. My dad was like, "How'd you know that?" I was like, "Oh, No No told me." And so, just these, like, random things would happen, but I couldn't really control it. It was just happening or it wasn't. I didn't really know what was going on. I thought everyone was feeling or knowing or hearing those things. Then I got a little bit older and I was like, oh, wait, like I'm fucking weird. No one else is hearing this. Like, bye, shut it down. So I was super embarrassed. I didn't really talk about it, didn't tell anybody about it. And then fast forward, I'm from Pennsylvania. I moved to LA when I was 19 for pro dancing because I trained in dance and I went out there to do like TV, film, commercial dance. And, while I was out there, I was so broke. I was at 19. I was like, had no car. So I needed my hair done. So I went to the closest hair salon that happened to be underneath the building that I lived in. I couldn't drive anywhere else. And I went to the front desk guy and I said, "Hey, can you put me with someone who can do blondes?" He goes, "I know exactly who to put you with." He puts me with this girl, Caitlin, and I start word vomiting onto her like my whole life story about this stuff happening. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I don't tell this to anyone. I don't know why I'm telling you this." She laughed. She goes, "I know why you're telling me this." She's like, "I want you to meet my intuitive healer." And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, I don't know what that is. And so I went and he used to hold these like Sunday night classes just in LA at this fitness studio. You'd set up mats in a circle and then he would just teach you some cool stuff about the universe or whatever. So I went and I met him and I had no fucking idea what I was doing there, but I just had this like pull to go. And he started talking about like universal laws and he started talking about that you can heal yourself and he started talking about intuition and I was like, I don't really know what you're saying, but I know I'm going to keep going. And so
Mm,
before you know it, I'm like balls deep in learning from now still he's a mentor and a teacher to me. learning from him, and I started to learn how to hone in on that intuition that would pop up randomly. I started to learn
Mhm.
how to control it and get actual tools to hone in on it, because we all have incredible intuition. We just don't have the right tools, and we don't know how it works, and we don't know how to access it. We don't know how to ask the right questions, because a lot of times we mistake emotions from intuition. So I spent years and years and years and years learning how to intuitively read things down to a science, and
Mm.
be able to read the energy that comes off of people, reading their thoughts, reading their higher self, reading their soul contract. And then I can bring that all together, see where I call them holes, see where their holes are in their electromagnetic field, so we can fill them in, shift our emotions so we can create differently. And so I combine a lot of that with the neuroscience to shift the brain reprogramming, to change the energy, to then change the reality. But I can intuitively look at and see exactly what the problem is, because I went through all those years of training. So long story short, that's kind of the background of what happened.
That is so cool. Actually, like, there were 2 moments when you were, telling me the story where, like, it was full body goosebumps, and I was like, "Ooh," like, it's, like, just, like, the hairs stand up on the edge of your body, and it's so interesting because obviously, and if you guys have been following me for this long, like, you know that nothing is a coincidence, and so you've shut down this, like, really powerful, intuitive gift that you have, and then you go and get your hair done randomly, and it's just, like, you can't keep it, like, that was, like, God, universe, whatever you wanna call it, just, like, nudging you in the right direction, and we're so grateful for those serendipitous moments, but that's such a powerful story. I also I'm a big nerd, and an academic, and so, like, anything that's, like, brought down to a science, I'm like, "Oh," like, literally just, like, wet about. So, like, I'm so
Feel like
excited.
I'm so turned on.
I
I
am so
understand.
turned on right now. So I'm so
I
excited
understand.
to dive deeper into this. Okay, and because it also sounds like too, you approach things in a different way than, like, I've even really heard before. So, one of the, let's to like kind of start and jump in. I love the way that you gave, the image almost as if, we're these beings and we're walking around and we have an electromagnetic field, and then we kind of have these holes in it, and those holes are potentially, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, preventing us from being able to reach our highest potential or make the money we want to make or find the love that we want to love. Is that correct?
100% yes. So essentially, we if you even ask a scientist, like, if you could break down any piece of matter, like what's the root of it, they're going to say light. So everything is made up of light. We are all made up of light. So we have this light that radiates off of us. It's called in science terms, our electromagnetic field. Well, I like to call it our creator field, because it literally creates every single thing in our life. And what our creator field is made up of is our thoughts on a daily basis, our emotions on a daily basis, our actions on a daily basis, and what we believe to be true about ourselves and what we get in life and what our reality is.
Mhm.
So, whatever those beliefs and thoughts and actions are, that writes what I like to call a script in our creator field. And that script is getting handed out to all matter around you, all people, all places, all situations and circumstance. And they are going to quite literally act out that script back to you. They're the actors, you're the script writer of the whole production of your own movie. So that you hand out that script to them, they are going to be toward you how you are being toward yourself. It is all one big mirror of you, which is really empowering, because I don't want people to go blame themselves. It's the most empowering thing, because when you realize, oh, I don't like this thing that's going on. Oh, but I created it. And if I created it, then I can create something different. And so
Mhm.
how we create something different is all our reality is what we believe to be true. And all a belief is a repetitive thought that we have over and over again. We change our thoughts, we change our belief systems. Those fill in those holes in our creator field, the more empowering belief systems that are more aligned with your soul self and your higher self. And then that changes your reality, essentially.
That was such an epic description, like an explanation. Can you just actually repeat? You said something really cool in there. It was like, all like, our beliefs, something our beliefs, and then our beliefs are just our thoughts. Can you just like repeat that phrase? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. So our all our reality is what we believe to be true.
Mhm.
And what we believe to be true is just a repetitive thought that we have over and over again. So if we want to change our beliefs, we change our thoughts, we connect our emotions to those thoughts. It changes the neural pathways in our brain. It suffocates the old neural pathways that are designed, that are connected to our fight or flight systems when it's how we respond. We suffocate those, we build new ones, we start responding differently, we start taking different action that then changes our reality.
The thing that I mostly work on with clients is like eating behavior and self-sabotage when it comes to like food and weight and all of that stuff.
Love that.
But really like your weight is just like an energy, like literally what is weight? It's adipose tissue, it's stored energy. So it's like
Yes.
so it's like it is just it all feeds off of this energetic loop, right? And if you know, for example, what happened with me was when I was younger, I was obese as a child, and so that like script, that imprint got imprinted on me very early. So no matter what diet I went on, no matter what, I just kept regaining the weight back because like that was my script, right? So
Yes.
if we shift the focus here a little bit to money or relationships, like when we keep, I have a lot of clients who are like, oh yeah, of course I'd want to invest in that, but they, they make money, but then they spend it just as easily, and they're constantly living paycheck to paycheck. How do you go from, okay, I'm going to write a new script, I'm going to say new affirmations perhaps, and I'm wealthy, I'm etc., and then like you can't pay a bill? Like what happens in that moment?
Hi, babes. I am so excited to talk to you about my signature program, The Mindful Method. This is the exact same method that I have been using with hundreds of successful clients to help you heal your relationship to food, to increase confidence, and to lose weight without dieting or killing yourself at the gym. If you're sick of not feeling like your best self, if you're sick of promising yourself that you'll start again on Monday, if you're sick of going on restrictive diets only to gain back the weight, I can tell you right now that if you gained it back, it did not work. You know what's healthy and what's not. You do. You just continue to choose the unhealthy option anyways. And a meal plan will not solve this issue. There is no amount of restriction or discipline or willpower that is going to stop you from self-sabotaging. The body follows the mind. Imagine a life where you don't have to think about what you can or can't eat. Imagine a life where you feel confident in all of your clothes, where every day in every way your body rebalances and you lose all of the weight so you find the truest, healthiest version of yourself. Imagine never having to start again on Monday. This is what happens when you focus on transforming the brain so weight loss is effortless. The body follows the mind, and it's time you actually get to the root cause of your issue. If you are ready to transform and find the truest, healthiest version of you without letting go of your favorite foods, I invite you to fill out the application in my bio. And if you're a good fit, we'll be in touch soon. Back to regular programming.
Affirmations, they don't work because you're just talking to your like conscious brain. You're not, the subconscious isn't like understanding you, and your emotions are understanding you. It's our emotions that shift our creative field. Our emotions, we need them. They're so powerful. Like people are like, we don't have time for emotions. Yes, you do. You need your emotions. Like our souls came here on this earth literally for emotions. This is the only place you can experience emotions. And so emotions are the best thing that could happen for us. It's just how we use them that makes them work for us or give us shit we don't want. So
Okay.
I like to call them brain reprogramming statements. So instead of I am wealthy, like our subconscious is going to go, no, you're not. And then you're going to dig yourself a deeper hole the other way than when you fucking started. And you're going to then feel like more shit about yourself later. So I like to go, everything that's going on in my life is making me more money. People don't sign up for your program. That's making you more money because it's making you better at marketing. It's making you think this, it's making you have this idea. It's making you hire this person on, which will inevitably make you more money in the future. I see every single thing in my life, whether it's on a human level perceived as good or bad, as this is getting me to make more money. So even when there was a point where I was literally digging for quarters in my car to pay for gas, I was going, oh my God, this is going to make me so much more money because this is going to be a story that I share. It's going to be how I market a course once I figure it out. And literally, it's a story I tell all the time now. So everything, instead of going, I am wealthy, going, everything I come into contact with today is making me more money because that's the truth, because it is. And you just have to see how it is, because there's a bunch of different quantum realms of possibilities of of perceptions, and you're just stuck in one perception, but that perception isn't necessarily the truth. The truth is whatever you choose to believe to be true. Whatever you choose to believe to be true is what you're going to continue to create. So if you can see every single thing is making you more money, because it literally is, because it's the truth. Because if you, like your listeners, if they put out a course and no one signs up, well, how is that making you more money? Well, it's giving you better ideas. You can try, you are now like looking at what other people are doing that maybe you're not doing. Maybe you get a marketing idea. Maybe you're so fed up with not making money, you get the $1 million idea that you never would have got if you got 10 people in the course. So you've got to see how every single thing is making you more money. That's number one. I would say, and then number two is so fear is awful for the creator field, because when we're in fear, it means that we one, are prepared for something, but two, that we don't have something. And if we
Mhm.
feel like we don't have, we're going to keep creating situations, circumstances, events, and people that keep acting out the script of I don't have.
Never
So
enough.
if you never, yeah,
It's never
exactly.
enough, never
It's
enough, never
never
enough.
enough.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
exactly. So if we have fear of never making money, that means we have a want to make a lot of money. When we have a want to make a lot of money, when I always say when the want's really high, kiss it goodbye. Like when you have a high want for something, you're not fucking getting it. It's like in
Mhm.
relationship, like if you really, really, really want a guy, the guy goes the other way. The second you like ignore the guy and you don't want the guy, he's chasing after you. It's the same thing with anything. Everything holds an energy and a consciousness. So if you're like really, really wanting, you repulse the money. Like you're not going to get it because you're wanting, which means you don't have, and you don't have, which means you're going to keep creating, I don't have. So I call it like a dream crushing exercise. I'm like, why don't you want money? And make a full fucking list of why you getting money would be the worst thing ever. Because right now, people get so high on like money's the best thing ever. What happens when you're really high is that there's a universal law called the law of balance, which means everything's both bad and good. Everything in this universe has to be in balance. So if you're too high, if you're too elated, your higher self literally has to create situations come crashing down. So if you're like, oh my
Mm.
God, money's so great. When I have money, I can do this, this, that, and this. Your creator field is going to create a situation where you're going to think you're going to go make a lot of money and then it doesn't happen and it's going to balance you back out. But instead, you can balance yourself out by going, why don't I want money? And there's a list. Money is just as good as it is bad. Everything in this universe has an equal amount of good and an equal amount of bad in it. It's a universal source science law. So you're seeing all the good, but you've got to go see the opposite to neutralize yourself. Once you're neutral emotionally, you no longer want, and then you actually end up creating it.
I always say you can't be in a state of wanting and having at the same time. It's like it
Yes.
really doesn't compute, but literally if the want is really high, kiss it goodbye, just blew that one out of the park. Like, so good.
Single rhyme for the day.
So good. Because I was just gonna ask you, like, well, okay, but like, how do you not want something? So, but what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you neutralize it. So you create that exercise of if there's something you really want, you go, well, why don't I really want this thing? And then it brings it into neutral. Is that correct?
Ex- exactly. Yes. So for money, for example, like I do this list myself all the time. Like, why don't I want more money? Well, that's more you have to pay in taxes to the government. Who knows what the government's doing with that money? I don't like the fucking government. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to pay the fucking government. Who knows how sketchy it's been the last 4 years, whatever. Like, it's also sketchy, right?
Mm.
It's always been sketchy. So that's one reason. Another reason is then I'm more my masculine energy. People expect me to then always pay. People then I don't get to be in the receiving energy, and I'm now the one who pays for everything. People, you don't know then if people are friends with you for your money or because they actually fucking like you. And so there's all these reasons why the more money you have, the more you have to like you're gonna have to hire people to deal with it, and you have to figure out where it's gonna go. And what if the banks crash? You make all this money and then the banks crash and then you made all this money for no reason. So I find all these reasons why I don't want money. And the more I do that, the more I create more money in my life.
It's amazing. It like you just opened up my world. I'm literally writing things down. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so good, just for even myself. Okay, so let's shift into we'll talk about relationships really quickly, although I feel like it's a very similar vibe to money. But
Yeah.
there was a point in time, especially because like I'm a big lover girl, like I'm just like such a hopeless romantic where all I wanted was just that amazing, perfect relationship, and you were right, I couldn't have repelled it more. I just kept manifesting the same low vibrational men who, no offense, guys, if you're listening to this, but, like, who, like, couldn't support themselves or were incredibly chaotic or, I had a big thing where I didn't want people to think I was high maintenance for some reason, and I go on a first date with somebody, and they were like, "Oh, I hope you're not high maintenance," and I was like,
Not me.
like, literally, I literally just had that thought and you just mirrored it right back to me. So
Literally.
so, if you have somebody who is, looking to manifest that, like, forever relationship, do you think that their, relationship they had with their parents or, like, where do you go from there? Do we look into, like, the childhood, or is it really just, like, let's take all of that programming out and let's use the neuro-linguistic programming?
Yes, here's what I love about like, the form of healing that I have done on myself and that worked really well, so now I, teach other people, is that you really don't have to go back and, like, relive your childhood. Like, you really don't. You just have to find the limiting beliefs it caused and reprogram those. When you
Mm,
reprogram those, you no longer relive the childhood because your neural pathways aren't going back there constantly anymore. So,
yeah.
really, all you have to do is find those beliefs, and I can find them with intuition in the creator field. Okay, like, and I clock things 0 to 100%. So, I'm like, oh, okay, your level of feeling like your emotion this isn't you, I'm just making this up, but your level of feeling like your emotions are too much are like you would 98% feel like your emotions are too much. So if you feel like your emotions are too much, then other people are going to feel like your emotions are too much. So let's get that down. Let's get you in fully in love with your emotions. And then you're going to find you will then create someone who's fully in love with your emotions. So that's you can find those things in the creator field, you shift that, and then you can shift your whole entire life. You don't really have to go back to childhood and really think about all that stuff. There's a time and place for that, but if you're doing that with everything you want to shift and heal, it becomes like this one big task and then people then don't do it because it's like, "Oh my god, like to heal this one thing, like I have to go relive 25 years of my childhood. Like I don't want to fucking do that." Then people just don't heal at all. So I'd rather be like, "Okay, let's do this as fast as possible and effective as possible." We find the belief that's really giving you a hard time. We get some tools, some neuroscience tools in there to shift it. We shift the emotion, we shift the creator field, we shift like the experience. So for relationships, and people will want to punch me in the face when I say this, but I promise you, you'll love me later. But everything and every relationship like me, anyone has been in, we're the common denominator of things that are going on. So if
Mm,
we keep creating the same kind of situation, we've got to look at our own creator field and go, why am I creating this? Not
mm,
about shaming or blaming ourselves, but going, okay, huh, interesting. I don't like that. I know I hold the power, so let me create differently. What belief system, what emotion do I have to shift to create differently? So, for anyone listening, if you keep finding yourself getting ghosted or getting gaslit or emotionally unavailable men or that kind of pattern, it usually comes down to a result of not feeling whole. Meaning, and not feeling whole consists of four ingredients. I call them emotional ingredients, just like how you need ingredients to bake a cake, you need ingredients to create the perfect man, or ingredients to create money, or ingredients to create the career, or whatever it is. So, emotional ingredients for our creator field. And there's about four ingredients where it comes to feeling whole. So, that's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Physical meaning, do I see my perfection in my physical body? Because
mm,
if we are comparing ourselves to another person, their physical body, we're immediately saying, I'm not whole. I don't want to be me. I want to be someone else.
mm,
Well, what happens is that writes in our creator field, you man, sir, woman, whoever, cannot get everything you need from me. And people, it's a universal law, we cannot go without. We need 100% of everything all the time. If we can't get it from one person, we're going to have to start to get it from somewhere else.
mm,
So if we don't feel whole physically, and we can't see our perfection in how we physically look, right? And how it's perfect because it is, because everything's literally perfect. It's just our perception that's out of alignment. If we can't see the perfection, let's say you are only seeing how perfect physically you are 19 or 20%. That
Mhm.
leaves 80% of your partner to go get that physical need met from somewhere else, whether they're looking at other women, whether they're talking to other women, whether they're actually cheating on you. I've had this happen. There was a point where I felt 2% whole. I created someone cheating on me. I created a whole fucking thing. And at that point, Jesus Christ himself would have cheated on me because my creator field was it was only 2% whole. I created it, right? And so, but now I shifted all of that, and my partner is, I don't even have to worry about this man thinking about another woman, like ever. And fun fact, it's the same partner. And so people will think, and this is the first I'm sharing that it's the same partner ever. So
Oh,
fun news for here.
wow.
People will think, and we're engaged on everything. And this happened the first year of a relationship, but people will think, oh, well, Allie, it's because you move partners. It's not the partner. It was my creator field creating a situation where that were to happen, right? And so, and it would happen to Jesus Christ himself would have cheated on me because I only felt 2% whole and on all those 4 pillars of feeling whole. So because people can't be without, they have to then get it from somewhere else, because they in relationship and career and anything, like if people aren't buying what you're selling, it's because
Mhm.
emotionally and mentally you don't feel whole, so they don't feel like they can get everything they need from you, so they feel they're going to go buy it from somewhere else. And so feeling whole is so important with every aspect of life, but talking on relationships, like you want a relationship where you're feeling like not worried about being too much, about your physical looks, about anything. You've got to feel whole physically. We touched on that. Emotionally feeling whole is feeling like your emotions are God's greatest gift to earth. Like my emotions are the best thing ever. And how my favorite tool and hack for that is going, would I rather be friends or date an emotional person who has tools to, come back to stable, or someone who seems like super balanced, but they're just holding everything in? Well, when they hold
Mm.
everything in, then they're lying. It comes out later. You don't know how they actually feel. You don't want to be friends with, you don't really trust them. You'd rather
Mhm.
be friends with the person who's like telling you all their stuff and emotional and up, down, and everywhere, but they have tools to come back, versus someone who seems balanced, but they're actually just boiling up inside and like lying and not sharing the truth. You'd rather be friends with the emotional person. So then that comes back to, okay, well, then I'd rather be the emotional person, because the emotional person who has emotion, who has expression, they're trustworthy. You know what they're thinking, you know what they're feeling, and they have the right tools to come back to neutral and take responsibility, but at least you know what's going on with them, versus
Mhm.
someone who, isn't saying anything and is like holding it all in, who knows what the fuck they're doing behind your back. So now we can start to feel emotionally whole because we can start to love our emotions, and the list goes on. So the point is there's those 4 ingredients to
No,
feeling.
no, no, keep going. Like, that's 2 ingredients. Go to the 3rd.
Okay, good. I didn't know if we want to stay on this topic, but I'm happy you want to. So mentally feeling whole is feeling like whatever it is that you talk about, or whatever it is you teach or do, or whatever it is, basically in career, you feel like you're the best at it. So you feel like
Mhm.
it can only be gotten from you. And not that other people aren't the best, but you're the best at being you. I'm the best at being me. Everyone's the best at being them. So feeling like you are the best and it can only be gotten from you. When
Mm.
you feel 100% that, now you feel mentally whole. Spiritually whole is basically trusting your intuition, learning how your intuition works, trusting your own voice over other people's, essentially. And, but also there's a nuance with that. A lot of times people think their emotions are their intuition. It is not at all. And we can go into that because it is
Mhm.
two very, very different things. When trusting your actual intuition and following that is spiritually feeling whole. So when we're not feeling whole on one or more of those things, we're creating whole, like the other kind of whole in the creator field, and gaps in the creator field, where now relationship, like since we're talking about relationship, I'll stay on that. Your partner is not going to feel like they can get everything they need from you. It's just a natural thing that happens. Just like how if your partner isn't feeling whole, you might have thoughts of like of other people, or you might just think other people are hot or whatever it is. It's
Mhm.
because they're not feeling whole. You wouldn't have those thoughts if they weren't feeling whole, or if they were feeling whole. So you can control literally even your partner's fucking thoughts based on how whole you feel. It is wild, 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 wild.
Okay, like booking a session right now, like add to cart. Like I'm like, okay. And it's so funny because you're like, oh, I'm not saying it's you, but like you're also a psychic and like I know you're reading me, so it's fine. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's like, let's put it on the
I
table.
can't help it.
But no, this is actually so helpful. But you brought up some really great and interesting points there, especially when we're talking about understanding the intuition, because I find that this one is one of the hardest to communicate because, how do you even really describe it? The only way that I've heard that it's described in a way that I can understand, but again, really hard to convey to like the general public is, ego is a yell, intuition is a whisper. But then it's like, but what if I don't hear the whisper? I have so many women where, I'm teaching them how to intuitively eat. I don't love calling it that, but,
Yes.
tapping into are you actually hungry right now? Or are you satisfying an emotional need, et cetera? And they're like, I don't know. I don't hear anything. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, how do we fully understand and tap into our intuition? And then also part two of that was you had spoken about, when you're working with a client or you're in your business, you'll see the holes, you'll see the limiting beliefs, and that's based on intuition, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your intuition. But can we do that ourselves? Like, can we find the holes? Can we tap into our own intuition?
So we can absolutely tap into our own intuition. I teach 4 levels of that. And finding the holes in the creator field is a bit of an advanced level, but I'm going to give like a foundational level today of how to start to tap into intuition. So, number one, we have to get our emotions down. We think most humans, if you ask them when you wake up, are you emotional? They'll be like, no. But if you can with intuition, you can lower the veil and it's kind of like a tattletale. So I can go, no, you were like 64% emotional when you woke up this morning. We're
Mm,
so emotional, we don't even realize, right? So first we have to get our emotions down. And there's a breath work pattern that tests really, really effective, intuitively tests really, really effective. And it's you breathe in your nose for 8 counts, hold it for 2, breathe out your mouth for 6 counts, and do that about like 8 times. It's automatically going to take your nervous system a little bit down to neutral. Then there's another emotional mastery tool I love. And it is picking a color like, okay, yellow. Now find 3 things around you that are yellow. Okay, there's a button here that's yellow. There's a yellow thing out there. There's a yellow thing. Oh, over here. Right. And so automatic now I'm focused on where the fuck yellow is. And now I'm out of my like little spiral that we get in. And then so
mm,
I go find 3 colors or find 1 color that you see 3 of. And then what are 3 things you're hearing and what are you could go to like tasting or smelling or just like use your senses.
mm,
Now you've got your emotions down. Now you can go intuitively you can hear your intuition better because I'll tell you what, emotions are so fucking convincing that it's your intuition. Like I've used to do all the time. Like when I was pro dancing, I was so beyond convinced that I was going to just be a dancer my whole entire life. It was my only passion in life, is my only thing. And then like a year into me healing, I'm like, wait, I only wanted to dance because literally I wanted validation. But the second I started healing my own validation, giving myself validation, I no longer wanted to dance. Shocker. Well, then that's a telling sign that was my emotions, but they had me so convinced that I was just going to be a pro dancer my whole entire life and it was my God's greatest passion on earth. And it's
mm,
not though, like intuitively. So emotions are really, really, really good at making you think something's it when it's not. So we've got
mm,
to be real careful with thinking it's our intuition. So one way you can also differentiate this is always do those emotional mastery tools first before you even try and look into anything intuitively. Step 2 is, and this is just 0.0000001% of like all there is to do with this, but just to give it like the podcast version. Step 2 is to understand that intuition's very neutral. It's kind of like if you're in the kitchen making eggs and you're like, I'm getting cheated on. We're like, okay. Then after that, the emotion can follow because you'll be mad about what you saw intuitively, but it's not before. So if you're making eggs and you're just like so like, oh my God, I'm gonna get cheated on, like I'm so, it's probably not your intuition because
mm,
intuition's a very neutral feeling. Now there's emotions to follow based on what you're intuitively seeing for sure, but it's that comes after. If it's emotional at first, that is your emotion. And
mm,
intuition too, it's not a it's not a want or even an elated feeling. It's just like a pull. It's like, oh, I gotta go this way. I'm feeling pulled to go this way. Like I'm feeling pulled to go when I was 19 to my mentor's class with my hairdresser, like so random and weird, but like I'm just feeling a pull to go. Like, was I so excited to go? No. I don't really want to go. I just feel a pull to go. If I
Mm,
followed my emotions there, I would have never gone. I would have never like learned to tap into my intuition to the way it is now.
mhm.
So emotions are not intuition. It's like a pull of like I don't know why, but I feel pulled versus a preconceived idea of like, oh, if I go to this thing, I'm gonna like make so much money, or if I go to this, I'm gonna meet the guy. If I go to the grocery store today, then I'm gonna meet the man of my dreams, right? But that's
Mhm.
not it. It's like a pull. Like how I met my fiance, I felt a pull. I was living in LA. I felt a pull to go on Hinge, which I like despised, but it was my own ego thing why I didn't like Hinge. But I felt a pull to go on Hinge, make my location, put it to Texas, but I lived in LA. You know what I mean? So it was like a pull. Like it wasn't like this, oh, I'm gonna make a Hinge, put it to Dallas, and then find my dream man. That's
Mm.
an emotion. So the pull of like, I don't know why, but I'm just feeling pulled is intuition. The like, oh, doing this is going to equal this, it's going to equal this, and some kind of elated feeling about it, or some kind of like any kind of emotion about it is your emotions.
No, that was so well explained. And I would say that, on a daily basis, because this idea of intuition, because we are emotional beings, like we live our whole day in a heightened state of emotion. So thanks for the tools to calm it down first, because it's super helpful. But it's like, how do you, not how, but how long in a day do we need to be like talking to our intuition? Like I'm trying to think about what my audience would be thinking. And I already know a lot of them are like, well, I don't have time to just like follow every pull. And it's just, but then if we don't,
Yes.
we're shutting it down, right? So like, what do we do?
Yes, exactly. So I would I would suggest listening to your intuition as much as you can. So even if let's say you someone listening works a job they don't like, well, my intuition's telling me to like quit this job, but is it though? Is your intuition actually telling you to quit this job literally right now, or is it telling you to quit this job in 6 months and find something else, right? Like
Mm,
so someone who's like, oh, I don't have time to listen to my intuition, I have to go to work. Well, your intuition probably isn't telling you to quit literally right now unless you're like a very specific person who actually needs to quit right now, right? But
mhm,
generally, it's probably not telling you to the general public that it's you're supposed to quit right now. Maybe it's telling you, "Oh, but hey, this isn't for you forever. Let's find a passion that you want to turn into a career later, or let's go a different route." But it's really probably not saying quit right now. So, okay, well, now let me go to work. Well, now let me look in intuitively. How can I have fun today? What do I need to do at work today to have fun? Like, oh, make a joke with your team member, or send this funny TikTok to someone, or like try implement a new communication tool, learn a new communication tool and implement that and see how it goes. Right? Like, how can I now have fun today? And you can just use your intuition for anything. Like, what do you want the outcome of today to be? And then you can use your intuition to get that outcome of the day. So, like, I'll have clients come in, or more so students come in, who a lot of my students like are somehow, some way doing one-on-one sessions with people for something. And they'll be
mhm,
like, Allie, I'm so bored of one-on-one sessions. Like, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah, blah. But they don't have the bandwidth to stop one-on-one sessions right now. So I'm
mhm.
like, okay, well, you basically want to have fun and feel fulfilled after them. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, let's have a plan of that you can go in there and shift some things around to have fun and feel fulfilled after them. So you can use your intuition to really get whatever outcome you want in the day. Therefore, you do have time to use your intuition because you're going to go through your day anyway, with or without intuition. Do you want it to be more fulfilling and fun, or do you want it to be, how it's always been up until this point?
Yeah. Thank you. I love that you explained also that just because we hear an intuitive hit doesn't mean it has to be like a right now type of thing. Like it could be, I'm thinking of a friend of mine. She has been like, she's a Pisces too. So like, she's like very psychic also. And she just like has been wanting to quit her job, and they keep doing layoffs. And like, she's like, oh, I'm going to get laid off. Like, wouldn't that be good? She never gets laid off. Like she's the one who has to quit this job. But it's like,
Yeah, she
And
wants to get laid off, so she's not getting laid off,
yeah,
literally.
totally. And so it's like I love that though, because then she puts a lot of pressure on herself because she's like, oh, I know I should do it, but I'm not doing it, and like then I'm not listening to myself, and then we kind of go down a different spiral, which is probably another whole or limiting belief of like, oh, like I don't take action, or I'm stuck, or like whatever narrative it is. Because I was going to ask you, I have, I do like a teacher training thing. I'm thinking of one client in particular, but or a lot of everyone who finds me accidentally. Like no one's looking for me specifically. And so I had this one client who came to me. She's like, I don't know why. I just knew I needed to sign up for this program. And I was like, yes, that's your intuition. Amazing. She's like, I felt the pull. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this. Like, I'm not a
Yes.
nutritionist. And I was like, perfect. You're in the exact right place. So we're going through the program, but then like she's like then she falls into like self-sabotage, right? But then it's like, well, she's not putting the stuff, she's not doing the homework, she's not doing that, she's not actually setting up the business. And so they like so we can listen to our intuition, right? But then like how do we fall back into these self-sabotage loops, and how do we escape that behavior?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing too, is like intuition can tell you something, but then it's here's what happens. Also, like with psychics, okay? Like, just
Mm,
untrained psychics who are very intuitive, but without the tools to like get you to what they're seeing. So a psychic could come and tell anyone like, oh, I see you making $20 million. And the person's like, okay, cool. But then they kind of just like wait for it to happen. Well, that's not going
mhm,
to work. You've
mhm,
got to rewire that's a potential thing you could do. It's like a definite possibility, I like to call it. Like it's in your soul contract, it's definite, but it's a possibility if you get that based on like how you choose to rewire your belief systems, your brain to make that happen. So in this case, like she feels a pull to the program, which is her intuition leading her. Well, now you've got to intuitively look in on what do I need to shift? Like, what I would do with her is I would go, why is she not doing the homework? Like, why is she not
mhm,
doing that? And if I looked in on her, she doesn't see, she thinks the work works on everyone else but her. So
mhm,
because of that, she doesn't have motivation. So
mhm,
now she would have to flip that. She'd have to prove to herself how every time she's put work into anything, how it's worked. And she needs
mhm.
to start to shift that belief. Well, now when she shifts that belief, well, now she's naturally going to get the motivation to do the thing. And what's cool about intuition is you can see exactly what the problem is, because a lot of times where the problem's popping up is not the root cause of the problem.
Yeah.
You have a problem in relationship, that's not the root cause. The root cause is some self-image thing of how you're perceiving yourself totally in a different area of life. We
Mhm.
shift that, it domino effect shifts other things. So for her, she just thinks that like she's not like good enough, special enough to see results, but everyone else is. So she has to shift that, and then she'll naturally get that motivation to do the homework. So with intuition, you can feel a pull somewhere, but then if you're like feeling off, you got to go, what's wrong here? Like, why am I not doing this here? You can use intuition to look onto that as well, and you can just get to the root cause super easily with it.
Yeah, because I think it's super common where, someone might take a big risk or do something like totally out of character, and they get the bravery or courage, whatever, to do that. And they're trying to shift their timeline or shift their life in one direction, but then they get hit with the wall. And then it's like, as soon as they get hit with something, then it just like goes back to old programming. And it's just like, no, no. Then once we're hit with that wall, we need to see like what belief that is that brought that in. And then we shift that, and then we keep going up and up and up. Yeah.
Yes, it's like a video game. It's like you can have you can get to level 10 of a level 1 of the video game and pass level 1. Well, you're at level 10 of level 1. Once you get to level 2, you're at level 1 of level 2 again. So, and you've
Mm,
got to work your way out. So, there's always going to be things to work through. So, I can get a belief going when I work on self-image work, like self-image work is a lot of things. So, like my self-image was really great. I worked on it and it was really great then when I was alone. Like I wasn't beating myself up when I was alone, but then I would get into social setting and I beat myself up again because I compare myself to people in the social setting. Well, then I shifted that, but I would compare myself to people who I perceive were doing better than me in career. So then you shift
mm,
that, and there's like you get to one level, you go to the bottom level one of the next level. And so there's always gonna be things, I mean, for the rest of your fucking life, at
yeah.
new levels of things.
Mhm.
So fall in love with doing the shifts now, or else you're always gonna fucking you're also gonna be like again. But it's the fun of it. It's literally why our souls are back. It's to literally
Mhm.
do this, and you get a lot of soul growth in being on Earth.
Yeah. I could not resonate with that more. So the 4 things, the 4 ingredients, for when we were talking about romance, is it that's those same 4 ingredients for, like, money or career, or do the ingredients differ?
They differ. They differ. So
Interesting.
for money, it's very specific. So it's like
Mm.
$1 billion, $10 million, like what is it?
Not
And
like a
also
million, like a 7 well, let's go for a million.
yeah, yeah. So there's about, and it's going to be different per person. So
Mm,
for you, there's about 18 ingredients emotionally to connect into to then make that happen for yourself. One of them being, hold on, let me get the wording right. I've earned the right to make $1 million a
mm,
year through business. Like I've earned that right. Like that's, and like bullet point and clock all the reasons of how that's true, but emotionally connect to them.
mm,
And when you do that, you plug all these in, you literally will create that super quick. Like I did these on myself with money, and I went from it was like I think it was like a $300,000 year to a $1.5 million year within 6 months
whoa,
time.
wow,
So that, and like the $300,000 year was the year before. What did we just 2023, and then in 6 months into 2024, or no, am I doing this correctly? Yeah, 6 months into 2024, we were like hitting the $1 million year already.
wow,
So, and it's
epic.
literally just certain ingredients to
Yeah.
plug in to the field.
And everybody, like, I know you said for me 18, which is hilarious and so cute and also scary. But like, but everybody has different ones. So you can meet somebody and they could be 5 or they could be, 20 or etc.
Yeah, it's dependent on like what they're wanting and where they're low. So like
Mm,
there's certain people who might feel like they earned the right, but they're missing something somewhere else that you already have filled up. Makes sense?
mm.
So it's going to depend on what they're already rooted to versus what they're not.
Oh, so cool. Okay. I could talk to you forever. But I would love, and I'm sure my audience would love, like I'm literally booking a call. So I
I
would
would
love
love that.
I would love for you to tell us, and my audience. I know you said you work with students, so do you mostly do group coaching? Like, go through your offers. Like, tell us your little ensuite.
Yes, yes. So I do one-on-ones. They're very booked out, but at this point, I do them now. I intuitively take on the ones that I do, but
Mm.
we also, which I would love to work with you.
Thanks.
But we also have Jonna on Team Allie, who's Team Allie's trained intuitive. She's trained with me for the past 2.5 years. This girl is insane. Like she's just about caught up to me. She's so fucking good. So she takes on a lot of one-on-ones now.
Mm,
I also do, I have a course, is my favorite course is the Glow Formula. It's just self-image healing, which then basically shifts everything in your life, like better career, better finances, better relationships, all of that. I teach energetic Botox in there. So I don't get Botox, I don't do any of that. I do it all energetically. Do that in there. And it's all about how you perceive yourself, which is what creates wrinkles and that kind of thing. So we do that in there. But I have a bunch of courses that you can find them just on alexandraninfo.com. Instagram is Alexandra Ninfo, TikTok's Alexandra Ninfo, podcast is Unfuck Yourself. So you can find everything you need all over there.
I think that I'll speak for my audience and for myself, but the work that you're doing is so inspiring, and you have such a great energy about it. And because like all of the clients I've met and like my own experience, like I did years and years and years and years and years of therapy, years and years, and it just didn't like program my brain to change anything. Things got better. I was like less emotional about certain things, a little bit more regulated, but like nothing really changed in my
Yeah.
environment until you
Yeah.
understand these concepts. And the way that you approach it is in just such a like light and fun and exciting like adventure. So I can't wait to chat more. And if you guys want any of her links, they'll all be linked up in the show notes, of course. But thank you, Allie, so much for coming on the podcast. I'd love to have you back.
Yes, thank you so much, Queen. I you're so much fun. You have such a great energy and personality. Like I was so excited to meet with you today. I'm like very excited about it. So incredible work that you do too. And your community is so lucky to have you, truly.
Thank you. Okay,
You're
guys, well, if
welcome.
you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with somebody who might need it, which is like low-key everyone. And we'll see you back on another episode of the Mindful Method podcast. Thanks.
Bye, guys.